thought landing on the moon was great. Wait till you hear about what we did on Skylab.
We watched the launch from the roof of the Manned Space Operations Building.
Skylab has cleared the tower.
It looked like a perfect launch to us.
That are now maneuvering to a proper flight path attitude.
Something bad was going on.
This is Skylab Control.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good, Achilles. Thank you for having me on the show. It's really
no
a
problem.
pleasure to be here.
Oh yeah, me too. Thank you so much. Also, my first question would be, what inspired to make this documentary? Were you ever interested by sci-fi or space? Because I heard that you're a massive Star Wars fan. I really love Star Wars as well, and I heard that you also made a Star Wars fan film. Yeah.
You found that out? Who told you that? Okay, cool. I'll talk about everything. I'm 52 years old. I was born in 1969, and I remember when I was 3 years old, my father watching Apollo 17 with me live while they were walking on the moon. That's one of the earliest childhood memories I have. And then he took me outside and showed me the moon. And in Australia, it was a near full moon, and it was in the middle of the summer, right? So we could go out there, in t-shirt and shorts. And he showed me the moon, and he said, "Can you see the astronauts walking on there?" I didn't want to disappoint him, and I said, "Yeah, sure I can." I'm like, "I can't see them."
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Nice.
And we came back in and watched it on television. I was like, wow, even then, 3.5 years old, nearly 4 years old, watching the moon live and thinking, oh, they're walking on there. So I grew up in the space age. I vividly love watching a TV show called Lost in Space and Star Trek, Land of the Giants.
Yeah, they're really good.
And then along in 1977 comes a film called Star Wars, which blew me away. I was 8 years old when I saw it in the cinema. And I remember coming out of the cinema with 8 years old, mind you, and just thinking, ooh, I would like to be able to make movies like that. So anyway, that was on the back burner. I was still in school, had to go through high school and all that. Now, 2 years later, in 1979, a space station called Skylab crashed into Australia. And I remember me growing up in Sydney, that was on the news in the days leading up to and the days following when it crashed. And so I was terrified the night it hit that it was going to hit our house. It didn't. It hit thousands of kilometres away, so we were lucky in that respect. That was always in the back of my head, going through school and everything, about this space station. I always knew what it was about. I had vague memories of watching bits and pieces on the news as a kid. I would have been 5 years old when that was all happening. And then in 1989, I watched the 20th anniversary telecast of Apollo 11. I was living in the United States at the time. I was doing an internship with a TV studio. And I got, at that time, Betamax was just on the way out, and that was the only spare video recorder I could get my hands on. So I recorded this telecast, and I prized it. I had never seen the full lunar walk before, and to be able to watch it was just mind-blowing. And I really then started, I started getting seriously into space, like real space, not just Star Wars. I will always go and see a Star Wars movie. You can bet the house on that.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's like
my favorite film. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's your favorite film?
Oh God, that's really difficult because, to be honest, I really love the original trilogy, but also the prequels are also really nice as well. Yeah. So honestly, it's really hard to choose, but I'd have to go with the original trilogy, to be honest.
Okay, because mine is Episode 4, A New Hope. The first one came out in 1977, followed immediately by Rogue One, because the two fit seamlessly together. It's unbelievable that 40 years apart, they made a storyline that just works between the two films. So anyway, coming back to then space, how did it come about? Right, I work in television. I worked in the United States, in Great Britain, and in Australia, and now in Germany. And I work in transmission. I look after the play out of a particular channel that goes out to the audiences. So what you watch on television at night is what I'm sitting in front of, making sure that it goes out properly. Now, I was looking at like I said, the Apollo 11 stuff, and I was like, well, I would really love to see missions that followed Apollo 11. And then I got interested in how the color television systems that they developed for Apollo came about. And there was information on the internet, but it was really difficult to find. You know, you had a little bit here, you had a little bit there, you had a little bit there. So I compiled it all together. And then, you know, through discussions with friends, somebody said to me, why don't you write a book? I was like, oh, okay, not understanding how much work is involved in doing that. So I did the book, Live TV from the Moon. And through that, I talked to the manager of the Westinghouse Lunar Television Department, who built the black and white camera they used on Apollo 11 and then subsequent cameras for the later Apollo missions, Skylab, and Apollo-Soyuz test project.
Oh, wow.
Every time I would speak to him maybe 2-3 times a week, and our conversations would start German time at around about 8 o'clock and finish at around about 3 o'clock in the morning. So the whole time he would tell me about Apollo, but he would always go, what we did on Apollo was great, but what we did on Skylab, that's where we started getting really good at doing the television. I'm like, Skylab, the thing that crashed in Australia, that you're saying is better than what happened on Apollo? You're like, yes. And I was lucky enough, you can see maybe behind the camera a couple of film reels. These are original 16 millimeter kinescopes. These are 16 millimeter films of video transmissions that were done on Skylab.
No way.
And I have, of the entire Skylab missions, approximately 85% of everything they telecast back down. And that's where my serious interest started. There were 2 books, one by David Shaler and one by David Hitt, both about Skylab. And that's where I was turning each page going, wow, I had no idea. And because it crashed in Australia, I was always of the assumption that this thing was a failure. And reading these books, I'm like, no, this is amazing stuff. And again, somebody in an offhand comment, and I have tried to find out who, it was on a Facebook group called Space Hipsters, said to me, look, you've got all this material, and I would post something every anniversary, like of a launch or whatever. And they said, you've got so much cool stuff, why don't you make a movie about it? And I'm like, oh, okay, not having ever made a movie other than working with teams on TV shows and productions. And then got thrown into the deep end of making an independently produced film about Skylab. And that's how it came about.
That's really cool. I was also wondering, like, how long did it take you to gather all this research for the project?
When did I start? Well, I got the VHS tapes, the very first VHS tapes I got at around about 2004. So what have we got now? It's nearly, well, definitely 15 years of research. Now, mind you, I started researching the follow-up to Live TV from the Moon, which was called Live TV from Orbit, where I wrote about the television technology they developed on Skylab. And through writing that book, I organized all these videos I had, because of the bits and pieces on tapes all over the place, and I put them into order. And that's where I was sitting there watching this stuff going, whoa, this is really, really cool. And that's where the little thought in my head was going, make a movie. And then the fellow who said to me, make a movie, and I thought, right, let's do it. So that's a long, hard research went into the making of the film.
I was also wondering, how do you find all the footage of the astronauts in training or, you know, in space? Like, was it hard to get permission for that?
Luckily, everything that NASA filmed or any of the contractors filmed for the project is in the public domain. So you know where to find it, you're allowed to use it. For example, the launch that was filmed on 16 millimeter film, I can use that. I just have to follow certain guidelines of NASA. And for example, what I can't use is a CBS report, say, from 1973, where they say, and join us now. If I show the newsreader, I have to get permission from CBS.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So for privately owned film material, yes, I had to get permission. Luckily, I knew enough and knew where to look that I didn't have to do that for our film.
Also, for my last question, what was your favorite part in the making of this documentary?
First of all, meeting the astronauts. I had spoken with them, cool. Through email, and I got to tell you, when we went to the big show where most of them were at, I came down the staircase. I see these guys who are my heroes, and I knew everything about them because I've been researching them. And I just froze. And I looked at my wife and I said, I'm freaking out. And we had to go back, and she had to psych me up. And then we went back in and talked to them.
Oh, that is just crazy. That is so cool.
I tell you, you know, when you meet one astronaut, it's nerve-wracking enough. But when you've got 10 of them sitting in a big hall, and you come in there and they don't know who you are, you're like, oh, what do I do here? And the one thing that really came to my benefit when I spoke to them was having done the research for the books, that I knew what I was talking about, and they could see immediately that I knew what I was talking about. And whatever guard they might have had, you know, oh, who is this guy? They saw straight away, I was passionate about it. And we got permission from all the astronauts to interview them in the film. Since we filmed, Owen Garriott, Paul Weitz, Alan Bean, and Bruce McCandless have passed away, and Jerry Carr as well. So we got, in some cases, the very last interviews they ever did. And you know, I'm so thankful that we did, because those stories would have been lost forever, so coming straight from them. And that's what makes this film so special for me.
That's nice to hear. Thank you so much. I really had so much fun interviewing you. This is really interesting.